Language learning seems like it's all about memorizing vocabulary and grammar rules, right? But what if the biggest barrier isn't knowledge at all? It's actually fear and emotional blocks that hold most people back from fluency.
That's such an interesting perspective. What made you start thinking about the emotional side of language learning?
Well, I was listening to this fascinating exchange between a language teacher and student that completely transformed how I think about acquiring new languages. The student was terrified of making mistakes, and instead of drilling more vocabulary, the teacher focused first on building emotional safety.
You know, that reminds me of some research showing that anxiety can actually shut down the language learning centers of the brain. Something like 70% of language learners report experiencing intense anxiety when trying to speak.
Exactly right. And what was really groundbreaking about this approach was how the teacher created what he called emotional scaffolding. Instead of throwing students into complex conversations, he built up their confidence through these carefully designed safety phrases that could work in almost any situation.
How did these safety phrases actually work in practice?
So here's what was fascinating. He taught simple but powerful responses like, I understand, but I cannot now, or I'm sorry, I need to think about that. These phrases gave students a way to maintain their dignity while buying time to process. Studies show that even a 2 to 3 second pause can reduce speaking anxiety by up to 30%.
Hmm. That's really interesting because it addresses something most language courses completely overlook: the need for emotional tools alongside linguistic ones.
Right. And what really blew me away was how this approach led to measurably faster progress. Students who learned these emotional management techniques alongside traditional language skills showed 40% more willingness to engage in conversations with native speakers.
Well, that makes so much sense when you think about how children naturally learn language. They're not afraid of making mistakes because they have these built in social safety nets.
And here's another fascinating aspect. The teacher incorporated what neuroscientists call stress inoculation through gradually increasing challenge levels, starting with simple greetings, then moving to basic requests, and finally handling complex emotional situations, all while maintaining that safety net.
That's such a clever way to build confidence naturally. What other techniques did they use?
Well, one of the most effective was something called micro practice, tiny 5-minute exercises throughout the day, like naming objects during routine activities or having short self conversations. Research shows these brief but frequent practice sessions can be up to 3 times more effective than longer formal study periods.
So it's really about making language learning part of your daily life rather than treating it as this separate academic exercise.
Precisely. And what's really powerful is how this approach acknowledges the cultural aspects of language learning, too. Like, did you know that studies show up to 65% of communication breakdowns between native and non native speakers aren't about vocabulary or grammar? They're about missing cultural context?
That really puts a different spin on how we should approach language education, doesn't it? It's not just about the words themselves.
And here's what I find most compelling. When students focused on emotional comfort and cultural understanding first, their actual language acquisition accelerated dramatically. Some studies showed up to 50% faster vocabulary retention when learners felt emotionally secure.
Those are pretty remarkable results. What do you think are the broader implications for education in general?
Well, I think it challenges our whole approach to learning. Instead of starting with content, maybe we need to focus first on creating emotional safety and building confidence. The data suggests that when we address the emotional barriers, the technical learning almost takes care of itself.
That's such a powerful insight for anyone involved in education or personal development.
You know what's really exciting? This approach could revolutionize how we think about adult education in general. When you remove the fear of failure and provide these emotional tools, you unlock this incredible capacity for learning that many people didn't even know they had.